This is lecture 9 of the electronics course. So in this lecture, first we'll just start off with continuing what we did last time. We were discussing FETs, field effect transistors. So we'll complete that discussion first. That's the first thing to do. Once we do that, we'll start the next module, which is digital electronics. So last time we saw field effect transistors or FETs, in particular JFETs or junction field effect transistors, which have a drain, a gate, and a source. So this is an N-type JFET, and VGS has to be reverse biased. Depending on how negative VGS is, if VGS becomes far too negative, then the depletion regions will meet up and then you will not have any current passing from the drain to the source. So we discussed how to bias this kind of device. We looked at the drain curves, which is the ID versus VDS characteristics. For various values of VGS. And then we looked at what is called the transconductance curve, which is the graph of VGS versus ID. And we saw that it has a quadratic form. This value over here is VGS cutoff. This maximum value is called IDSS. And then this curve is given by the formula ID equals IDSS times 1 minus VGS by VGS cutoff square. So we call this a transconductance curve, but what exactly do we mean by the word transconductance? So suppose you're passing an AC signal through your JFET. So then you have some AC current ID and some voltage VGS. And in keeping with the same notation that we used before when we were doing BJTs, if you use capital letters, it indicates that they are DC quantities. Small letters indicates AC quantities. So what we do is we define a quantity called transconductance, and this is denoted by GM, and GM is given by ID divided by VGS. So physically, what is GM? GM tells you how much control VGS has over ID. Because if GM is large, what it means is that a small VGS produces a large current. So the magnitude of GM essentially tells you how sensitive is the AC drain current to the gate source voltage. What are the units of GM? GM has inverse units of resistance because it is current over voltage rather than voltage over current. So GM, the units are mho, which is the opposite of ohm, and it is denoted by an upside down omega. Or sometimes it is also measured in quantities called Siemens. So you can denote GM in these quantities. It's just 1 over ohm essentially. Now, if you look at that, if I draw the transconductance curve again, which I had drawn the last time, so these are the DC quantities. These AC quantities So you can think of Gm as being delta ID over delta VGS, because any kind of AC signal that you have is going to be like a variation over the DC one. So this is just the slope of this curve. So if you look at it, when you are in this, if you are at this point, then your GM is given by this slope. If you are higher up, then the slope actually increases. So GM will vary depending on where you are. So since we know that ID is IDSS 1 minus VGS by VGS cutoff whole square, we can take the derivative of it to find out what is GM. So therefore GM, when you differentiate this, you get IDSS twice negative sign divided by VGS cutoff 1 minus VGS over VGS cutoff. And this quantity over here, minus 2 IDSS over VGS off, is called GMO. GMO 1 minus VGS over VGS cutoff. So now I can plot what GM looks like as a function of VGS, and from the formula you can see that it's going to be a linear function. So it looks something like this. It's a straight line where this value over here is VGS cutoff, because you can see if I set GM to 0, then that means VGS should be equal to VGS cutoff. So GM 0 means VGS equals VGS cutoff. Whereas this point over here, what is that? That is the point where VGS becomes 0. So VGS becomes 0 means GM is GM naught. So this is what the graph of transconductance looks like as a function of VGS. Why do we care about this quantity transconductance? Because it appears in a lot of places. So for example, just like in the case of the bipolar junction transistor, we constructed a lot of different kinds of circuits and we saw how they work. You can do the same thing over here also. So you can use your JFET as a switch, you can use it as an amplifier, you can construct a differential amplifier with it, and so on and so forth. So for example, suppose you want to construct now a CE amplifier but now with a JFET, not with a bipolar junction transistor. So do you remember what kind of circuit we had for the CE amplifier? We'll basically draw the same thing except with a JFET. So the circuit will look something like this. So we call this R1, R2. This is my potential divider circuit. And over here, earlier we had a bipolar junction transistor. Now instead I'm going to put a field effect transistor. So let's give these some names. So of course this is gate, drain, source. So instead of calling this collector resistance, I'm going to call it the drain resistance. And this one, instead of being the emitter resistance, this is going to be the source resistance. What else did we have in our previous circuit? We had one capacitor over here, which we will still keep. And then this is where we take the input. Similarly, over here at the we have a capacitor going to the output as well. So this is V out. And we also had a bypass capacitor across the emitter resistance. Now we're going to have a bypass capacitor across the source resistance. So this is the circuit diagram, and of course there's one load resistance over here. So this is the circuit diagram for a CE amplifier with JFET. CE amplifier in common emitter, not common emitter. Now this is the source, so common source mode. And then you can do a similar analysis as we did in the case of the bipolar junction transistor. We first, and this is plus VDD. So for the BJT CE amplifier, first we did a DC analysis. We calculated the various currents. Then we did the AC analysis, and then combining the results from the two allowed us to define what the voltage gain should be. Same way over here, you first do a DC analysis, then you do an AC analysis. We are not going to do the full detailed thing. You can look it up in Malvino, they have it over there. So the voltage gain, AV in the end, is given by GMRS divided by 1 plus GMRS. Where GM, you already know what it is. GM is the transconductance of this FET, and RS is going to be RS parallel with the load resistance. So the value of this source resistance over here plays an important role in determining what the gain should be. Okay. And like I was saying, you can do all sorts of other things. In the case of the BJT, we defined the transistor as a switch. By having a circuit like this. So when input was high, output was low. When input was low, output was high. So we said this is like a switch, because depending on whether input is high or low, the current will flow or won't flow through this vertical branch. Same way, now you can, instead of seeing BJT as a switch, you can have a JFET as a switch. Exact same way. I am just going to replace this with a field effect transistor. So the same thing happens. Similarly, you can have differential amplifiers. When we were studying oscillators in op-amps, we also saw an example of the astable multivibrator using transistors. So similarly, you can have these astable multivibrators or oscillators in general. You can build oscillator circuits using JFETs. So plethora of possible applications. What are the advantages of using JFET? So typically JFETs give you lower noise levels than BJTs. Switching time is faster, meaning that the time lag between giving an input and getting an output is smaller for the FETs. FETs have better thermal stability. meaning you're not restricted to be working at or around room temperature. You can have different you can vary the temperature and you will still be able to use the FET without changing its internal properties too much. Uh, what are some of the other advantages? Mm, yeah, you can use the FET as a voltage controlled resistor. So if I make a plot of uh, ID versus VDS, then this curve looks like a straight line, and the slope of the straight line depends on the value of VGS. So for one value of VGS, for some other value of VGS. Of course, these are all negative, huh? So let's say minus 1 volt, minus 2 volts, minus 3 volts, and so on. So if you change the value of VGS, you get a different slope of the VDS versus ID curve, which means that your FET is acting like a resistance. So R1, R2, R3. So you can treat it as a resistance. If you have a circuit in which, let's say, the voltage gain depends on the amount of resistance that you're putting, then you can plug in this JFET circuit, which will then change the resistance depending on how much VGS you have applied. So your JFET is a voltage regulated or a voltage controlled resistor. So that's yet another possible application. There are lots of other kinds of FETs also. You're not restricted only to a junction field effect transistor. For example, you can have MOSFETs, where the MOS stands for metal oxide semiconductor. In this, basically, so you have drain, source, and over here you have a metal oxide layer, and then on top of this you have your third terminal over here. And what this does is, now in this case, even if the gate becomes slightly positive, you can still have some drain current flowing through this FET. So earlier, the graph of VGS versus ID looked like this for a JFET, but for a MOSFET, it looks like this. So even for positive values of VGS, you can get some amount of ID. And once again, you can have all kinds of applications over here. So for example, if you want to do some fast switching circuits, MOSFETs can be useful. So these kind of circuits are denoted like this. So this is your MOSFET. Then you can have other variations. You have the CMOS or complementary MOSFETs. This is the symbol for CMOS. Once again, various kinds of applications which we will not go into, lack of time being one big reason. But of course, you can read up more about these. You have D MOSFETs, you have N MOSFETs. Malvino discusses them in great detail. So if you're interested, I would highly recommend you take a look at them. But in this course, this is all that we are going to discuss.